Let me hide myself in thee.
Welcome to the Steady Anchor Podcast, a podcast on Christian faith and practice, highlighting doctrine and discipleship in the local church. I'm Luke, and welcome to the show. Welcome to the... Forgot to press the button until it was too late. Welcome to the Steady Anchor Podcast. I am Luke, your host, brought to you by the coronavirus. Not sponsored. So today is going to be... Sorry, trying to adjust the mic again. Today is going to be a rather special type of episode because today I'm joined by my first actual guests. Welcome, Grant, from the Grandpappy Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
So not only are you my first official guest, not just like a roommate that was free to record, but I think you also hold the record of most people hitting me with a dodgeball.
Ah, yes. This was actually a topic brought up the other day, and I like to think that I would go in the Hall of Fame of church dodgeball.
I just remember so many times in high school and junior high where it'd be like, okay, we're going to do high school, or we're going to do dodgeball. And then Andy would pick people out our youth pastor Andy would pick people out for team captains. And then he'd be like, all right, choose two people to start your team. They'd be like, all right, I want Andy and Grant. I'd be like, crap. And then I'd get picked like fourth for the other team. And I'm like, well, this is going bad.
Josiah and I were talking about it, and even Brandon too. And we just talked about how, just the memories that we had of who got hit in the face and who didn't.
Good times. So, how long have we known each other, Grant?
Oh boy, we were going to First Baptist Church of Shanahan together.
Back in the day.
Friar Street. So, I don't even remember how old or young I was for that matter. But one vivid memory I have, this shows how young you were. You were climbing on top of the swing set, and then you fell right off of it.
Yeah, that probably happened a number of times.
And I want to say you had broke your foot or your arm?
I do remember that.
Was it your foot?
That was like preschool.
Yeah. That's how long we've known each other.
No, it wasn't. I wasn't climbing on it. I did that thing where like you're on the swing set and you're going up and down. You're like, all right, I'm done swinging, so I'm going to jump off. So I'm going really fast because it's a bigger swing, and then I like hesitate when I hit the stride of the swing and then get off right at the top and just fall straight down on my foot. So that was a bad time. I was not a smart kid.
I remember it was a very long fall, but I was out there to watch it, and I thought, ooh, I bet that hurt.
Yikes. And it did. Actually, it was just very numb. And I was like, well, something's wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's been quite a while then. It's been upwards of 15, 16 years, something like that. Yeah. So we grew up going to like youth group and stuff like that together, did church for a while. I always would remember you and your brothers coming in to the gym at the new building and like getting ready for something like dodgeball and being like, oh, this is what the spies must have felt going into Canaan. Be like, it's the sons of the Anakim. The giants have come to destroy us.
Yeah, we high school youth group. So that was when because we had left for a time because I remember gas prices had skyrocketed to like $4.50, and
you live quite a distance away,
right? And my dad wasn't working full time at the time. He was doing schooling and just kind of working a little part time stuff. And we kind of got to the point of, we can't afford to drive up here 2-3 times a week. So then once we finally came back and we were in the new building, I think I was a freshman in high school. And then, that's when it got to the point where we had that huge gym, and then it was a dodgeball, and it was like, well, hey, I'm here. Game on,
Might as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So just give us a bit of your background. How did you come to know Christ, and what's he done in your life lately?
Sure. So, grew up in the church. My mother had gotten saved when she was like 14 or 16 or something like that. Fast forward a lot of years later, I'm born. So grew up going to church every Sunday, every Wednesday. Was plugged into youth groups, Wednesday night stuff, whatever the case was. And so I had a lot of knowledge of the stories and the characters of the Bible. But then as I got older, it was like I saw it as, well, I'm not supposed to do these things because my mom tells me I'm not supposed to do these things.
Yep.
So then once I kind of got old enough to start making some of my own decisions, I kind of fell into the whole partying scene, late high school, started going to parties a lot. And then first couple of years I was at community college, was playing basketball. So, I'm kind of one of the guys, if you will.
Just hanging out.
I put air quotes over that. You guys couldn't see though.
Cracking open a cold one with the boys.
Frequently. Many cold ones, unfortunately. But yeah, so it was a lot of that, a lot of just kind of like chasing after women and stuff, a lot of things you're really not supposed to do.
Yep.
But yeah, I turned 21, and that was in 2017. I turned 21, and I'm like, well, here we go. Mm-hmm. Now the freedom of this has just skyrocketed.
Yeah, no restrictions.
I can go and buy this stuff whenever I want. Mm-hmm. So, about a month after I turned 21, I remember I had gotten home really late, or I guess very early. If you will. Yeah, about 6:30 in the morning, and then my mom had woke me up at 7:30, and all she said was, "Smells like you've been drinking." I'm like, "Oh, this is so bad. This
Yikes.
is so bad." And granted, this is like my third or fourth time getting caught, so I'm like, this is it. Like, they're going to kick me out.
And knowing your parents, I can't imagine that was a fun morning.
It was not a tolerated thing in our house.
Yeah.
But yet, stupid me, I like to push the envelope and do whatever I want.
Yeah.
So then, that whole day I was just like shaking. I was like, I'm waiting for this talk to happen, and I just want it to happen to get it over with. And then eventually I'm like, I'm going to force this talk to happen.
Yep.
So I went up to my parents and said, "Hey, is it okay if I go over to so-and-so's house?" I don't remember where I was going. And they're like, "No, let's go have a talk." I'm like, okay.
Here
That's
it
actually
is.
kind of a sigh of relief. Like, I just want to get this over with.
If I'm going to die, I might as well die now.
Yeah, I might as well bring it upon myself. So they bring me in and have this big, long talk with me. And they're like, we were going to kick you out.
Yeah.
But we're going to give you one more shot. And I'm like, okay, I can't blow it now. So
because we grew up in kind of the typical SBC church, where it's like, we don't drink, smoke, or chew, and hang out with girls who do. So like,
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then from there, I was like, the term that's going around now, I self-quarantine. My buddies were always like, "Oh, hey, let's go to such and such bar, and let's go to so-and-so's house." And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm not leaving. I'm too scared to leave my home. So at that point, I remember looking on my desk, and the Bible that my mother had gave me was NIV Life Application Study Bible. Mm-hmm. And it was just sitting on my desk, and I'm like, I don't know, I just picked it up and just opened it up to like the first couple of pages, not even in Genesis, just the first couple of pages. My mom had written a note in there that says, "Grant, always remember, this book can keep you from sin, or sin can keep you from this book." I'm like, oh, already?
Yikes.
And then over time, it's like the Lord just started to change my desires and change my heart to where it was like, it's not so much I'm too scared to go out and do this stuff now. It's just the fact of like, I just don't want to.
The desire's not there anymore.
Exactly. So then, it was like December of 2017 where I firmly believe I became a believer. Mm-hmm. I got baptized and asked Jesus into my heart when I was like 4 or 5, but I think it was until 21 when it was like, okay, like I can tell now that I'm really genuinely saved now.
Yeah. Because we can try and make that process work on our own. We can try and make a decision, but if the Spirit of God's not working, nothing's going to happen.
Exactly. And so that's kind of the way I look at it. So, but now it's taken such a drastic turn, even more so because I was going to community college. I was studying welding. At that time when I got saved, I was studying welding, but of course it's December, so I'm on Christmas break. Mm-hmm. So then I go back and, late January, during February, I'm like, I'm enjoying this, and I'm enjoying what it's going to lead to, which was a guaranteed job that I had, making $70K.
Yeah,
starting
good
out.
money. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was kind of excited and looking forward to that, but then, like, March rolled around, and I'm like, I'm just not loving this anymore. Like, what's going on? So I went and talked to my mom. I'm like, I feel like I'm being called into ministry.
Yeah.
And she's like, I think you just don't want to do welding anymore. I'm like, well,
maybe both.
Yeah, I got to the point where I was like, what is this? Yeah. So over time, graduating after she had some weird conversations with some people, to where it was like, your son needs to be going to Bible college, and they had this 30-minute conversation. She's like, so when did Grant talk to you about this? And this woman was like, I didn't even know your son's name was Grant. Like, I just passed by him in the hallway just now. Huh. So then at that point, my mom's like, okay, you, do that.
I'll take that as a sign.
Right. So then it got to the point where I didn't really know where to go. The only Bible college I knew of was Moody. And I'm like, well, I'm sure there's other schools out there. And Josiah had informed me that he was going to Southern. And then we got talking about Boyce, the undergrad program there, and talking about that. And eventually I went and visited, and right away I knew. I was like, this is the place.
Just got that confirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been such a huge blessing, regardless of our semester being cut very short.
Yeah. Yeah, we're recording this from my dad's basement, kind of impromptu, because both of us had to move out of our colleges in these last couple weeks. So I'll release an episode explaining more of that later. But yeah, so thanks for your story. I appreciate it. And like growing up together, we share a little bit of a common experience, like growing up in a Christian home, getting those Bible stories and the good morals and stuff, but not really the big picture. Like, we don't really how to put it all together, or like, I hear that you should do this and shouldn't do this, but what's the real imperative there?
Well, and when you're so young, you don't really ask the question of why, or like, so what?
Yeah.
You hear that, David defeated Goliath. Okay, so what? So you just had like this really, like, you had a little guy who outsmarted a really big guy.
Does that mean that I'm David?
It was. Yeah, we can get into that. I'm David, and life is Goliath.
Exactly. Yeah. Great hermeneutic. Anyway. Yeah.
Insert Matt Chandler clip.
Anyway. So yeah, I definitely resonate with that. Because like, I think you've probably heard my testimony once or twice, where it's like, I did the same thing, sinner's prayer, 3 or 4 or 5, I think it was like first grade, and then just went straight back into sin for a long time, and then came to Christ in junior high, and the slow process of sanctification.
Yes.
I was still a major turd until like the end of high school. But yeah, called to ministry as well. So like, it's weird looking back over the years at like the interactions between like the group of people and where we are now from where we grew up.
Yes.
Like you and me and Josiah.
Yes.
3 people who would very rarely be expected to be going into ministry, much less being friends and working together on stuff like this.
Yeah.
So God is good.
That's so true. Yeah, Josiah and I talk about that all the time, to where it's like, dude, like, we literally hated each other. Like, we were doing anything to just get 1 inch above the other person. And then now it's at a point where, like, Josiah and I have talked so many times about, like, regardless of what happens, like, we want to do ministry together. You know, whether it be here at home or in Kentucky or, wherever God leads us. But it's just so funny to go back and look at that stuff. It's so funny.
Yeah. It's crazy how God works those things together. So tell us about what's it been like at Boyce for you? How have your studies gone? What's your biggest takeaway from your classes so far?
So life at Boyce was a bit of a culture shock to me when I first got there. Because I grew up in like Christian community, yes, but I didn't grow up in like a homeschool Christian community.
Yeah.
So my first couple of weeks at Boyce, you have people running around campus showing up to class barefoot. Like, what the heck is going on?
I know this is Kentucky, but man.
Yeah, I'm like, what in the world is happening? And just so much stuff to where I'm like, oh, this is just, well, it's just so drastically different going from like a public community college where, I was playing basketball with guys who were showing up to practice smelling like weed, and then a couple years later I'm showing up to class and kids are all barefoot. I'm like, what in the world?
And you went to public high school, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is all just such a culture shock. And
Big
I'm like,
switch.
Wow, like this is very different. But it was really good though. I built a lot of really good relationships early with a lot of amazing people. So that was the biggest thing. I was just so excited because it's like everyone here has just like this common goal, and that's to love the Lord. So it's like, it doesn't become such a battle of like, I don't know who to surround myself with because, these people do this stuff and these people do this stuff.
Who do I have to stay away from?
Exactly.
Well, there's not many people like that at Boyce.
Right, exactly. I mean, again, you're going to have your handful of people who don't, they're kind of there because they're
it's
forced
expected
to be there
of them.
Yeah. Pastor's kid. Not saying all pastor's kids are bad, but there's a lot of them where it's like, you're a pastor's kid, so you're just kind of here.
Yeah. Feels obligatory. Obligatory, whatever the word is. Yeah.
But you often see those people kind of wean out. Like my class coming in, granted I was 21, coming in with a bunch of 17, 18-year-olds, but we had a class, we had the largest class Boyce had seen, and it was 250-something. Mm-hmm. By this year, I'd say over half of my class is gone.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with financial reasons. I mean, I totally get that. I'm kind of in that situation now, but...
Yeah. College is hard to pay for.
College is a little bit hard to pay for. But yeah, being at Boyce, though, I'm a counseling major. I started out as youth and family ministry. Mm-hmm. And I was really excited about that. I've always had a passion for youth ministry, mostly like high school age. And then just kind of as time passed on, and I started to learn and grow in a lot of the things that I just didn't know. Because a lot of times you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So learning how to really just like break down the scriptures and just, really being exposed to like expository preaching and what that looks like. It was just huge to where it's like, I'm now seeing God so much differently than I saw him before.
Yeah.
Because at first it was like, I have this God of my mind who I think he is. So it's like, oh, he would never do these things, or he would never do these things. And it's like, look at the scriptures. He does it all the time.
And yet the Lord sits in the heavens and he does all that he pleases.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, once I finally learned that stuff, and then I was able to talk to some like friends from like back home and everything, and I kind of got to the point where I was like, I would really love to do counseling, because with a counseling major, you could definitely do youth ministry. Over half of it is counseling. Yeah. Ministry in general.
Just add in, pizza and dodgeball, and then you get a full youth program.
Right.
Abstinence training.
Yeah, you get to obliterate kids in the face, but you also get to talk them through their problems.
Yeah,
so.
It's a great time.
But yeah, so I switched to a counseling major, and the professors, well, let me clarify. I'd say about 90% of the professors at Boyce and Southern are just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And all the professors for the counseling major, so good. I've learned so much just in the counseling classes, even with it being online now, which sucks. But had my counseling class yesterday, and we're going through, in this class particularly, the ACBC certification. So you go through and you look at these questions, and then we go through all the notes and all the scripture that lines up. And it's just so incredible to see how you can have a topic such as the Trinity. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, yeah, of course, Father, Son, Spirit. I can explain the Trinity. Yeah. But to actually break it down and look, well, here's a bunch of passages in the New Testament. Mm-hmm. But then also here's all these passages in the Old Testament where God is saying, let us make man in our image. Mm-hmm. To where it's like, just stuff like that.
The Spirit of the Lord hovering over the waters.
Yeah. It's just so cool to see how much of the Bible you can just kind of just break down to explain a point such as the Trinity. Yeah. Or something along those lines. So, and of course, chapels and dorm meeting. So we have dorm meeting, which is like our Monday night kind of chapel service.
Worship time.
Yeah. And it's for just the Boyce students living in the dorms. Mm-hmm. So it's like between church on Sunday, dorm meeting on Monday, chapel on Tuesday, Wednesday night church, chapel on Thursday. You're getting a lot fed.
You were getting fed. You were getting a 5-course meal every week.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, granted, you're not required to go to chapel every time. You have to get just X amount of credits per semester, but
a chapel like that, you almost want to go.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of people are like, oh, man, that's so nice. You're going to move off campus. Now you don't have to go to dorm meeting and you don't have to go to chapel. It's like, I'm still going to go to these
but I want to.
Exactly. It's like, I'm going to still go. Like, these are people you're never going to hear elsewhere, Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's just been a phenomenal experience at Boyce. I've loved it. And, of course, met my lovely girlfriend there, which...
Congratulations.
Thank you, which is also awesome. We're running on a little over 13 months now.
Wow.
So, and in the Boyce community, people are like, what's going on?
You might as well already be married.
Why aren't you guys married yet? What's happening? They're like, money's still a thing, so we're going to hold off.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's been great.
Who's been your favorite professor so far at Boyce? Oh, have you had Herschel York, by the way?
So I've not had him as a professor.
Gotcha.
He is a Southern professor, but I've got to hear him speak numerous times.
I just love his voice.
Have you watched or listened to his
Pastor
podcast?
Well? Yeah.
So good. So good.
Herschel York from Boca Raton Baptist Church.
He's great. Wow. Him and Don Whitney are two guys I love to just sit and listen to talk. And then Don Whitney's stuff that he writes too.
Yeah.
Just,
I used his Spiritual Disciplines book as a reference tool for a couple episodes on this.
So good.
So great stuff.
So practical.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about Grandpappy Podcast. What is that, and why is it called that?
What is that? So the Grandpappy Podcast is my podcast. So if you're listening to this, feel free to go check it out. We're on all streaming services. I say we as if there's like a studio that's doing it.
I say that all the time, and everyone's like, "What? Who else is there?"
Who's we? Yeah. What? Who else is there helping you? But yeah, so we're on all streaming platforms, and I'd always wanted to do a podcast for a long time, but I was like, if I don't have good enough equipment, I'm not going to do it. I'm not just going to use a Apple microphone from my headphones.
And we're white males in our 20s, so what else are you going to do?
Well, exactly. We're white males in our 20s at Christian colleges.
Exactly.
So at that point, it's like, you're obligated.
Basically expected.
But yeah, so my buddy Chris Holderfield, we have an episode together, and we were talking about, there's just a room full of us, and we're talking about like doing a podcast, and my friends Dalton and Chris were talking about doing a podcast together of, we're both from the South, so we can, just talk about stuff like that, we have a lot in common. And it was just going to be like a really funny podcast, but they were also going to talk about current events. Mm-hmm. So I really wish that whole thing would have went through to hear them talk about all what's going on now. And then I was kind of sitting there with my notebook, and I'm like, well, I'm going to do a podcast as well, but mine's going to be more of like have a different guest each day. Mm-hmm. And I don't listen to it a ton or watch it, I guess, since it's on YouTube as well, but like the Joe Rogan podcast, kind of that sort of format.
Yeah.
So,
less pot, though.
Yeah. A lot less. It's just pots of coffee.
Exactly.
Bingo. Which gets us to our next topic later. But, yeah, so I had a couple of people on. We did like 3 in the first night. Mm-hmm. I recorded 3 because we were just having a lot of fun. We were up until like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
You get in a roll. You get in a great mood. Keep going.
Yeah. So then I had like just an arsenal of recorded podcasts. I had I think 5 of them recorded before I released any. So then I got to the point where I'm like, well, if I'm going to release one, I'm going to release all 5 so people have kind of a variety of ones to listen to. Mm-hmm. So I went ahead and designed a little logo on like this free logo maker online.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spend money. So did that real quick and then tossed them all up and just kind of started blowing them up on social media. Hey, I made a podcast. Here's a bunch of episodes.
Come check it out. Let me know what you think.
Exactly. And so then from that point, I started thinking of more and more people I could get on because it was like, the first couple that I recorded, it's like, we're all kind of similar people. Like, we all come from different walks of life, but like people know like, oh, so it's just like Grant and his homies.
Yep.
So at that point, I'm like, I got to branch out now and started pulling some other people in. Mm. And then it dawned on me because I think I've got like 10 episodes now because, school, life gets busy.
Yep.
I got to the point where I'm like, I have all males on this. Like, I got to get at least a couple females on here and interview them. So, yeah, so then it's like, I'm not just, it's just Grant and guys, oh, he's sexist. You want to have women on the show, So it's at a point, too, I had, like, lined up. I was like, I have, a couple of really close female friends.
Yeah.
A couple girls that I did student leadership with.
Interesting people who know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you just see the different walks of life and the way people came to, I mean, that's a big topic that I always talk about too, is like, how did you come to salvation?
Yeah.
And just to hear the different stories and where people came from is just so awesome to where you have like someone who was like, my dad was a pastor, my mom was always plugged into the church, and, I came to faith when I was, 13 or 8 or something, to where you have another person that's like, I was bad into drugs for a while, and then the Lord like opened my eyes through whatever circumstance. So it's like just to hear those stories alone makes the podcast is so much fun.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts about listening to it, is just hearing. Sometimes it's a normal story, like, oh, I was, raised in a Christian home. I was a believer from a young age, always kept in it. And then you have the crazy stories of doing all sorts of things in the world. But each one of them is a testimony of how God calls his people to himself.
Yeah.
It's always a show of God's grace that you can rejoice in. It's a great, just listening to testimonies is a great time.
Yes, I love it. That's one of the really cool things about being at Boyce in general, is that, just hearing, that's usually what happens within the first week, is you have a group of people just circle up and like, oh, let's share testimonies. And as corny as it kind of is, I remember my first week there.
Christian Bible College stuff.
Yeah. Right. I mean, we're there's just a group of us sitting outside, and it's you look back now and it's I don't even really talk to any of those people. I'll say hello, but that's not the group of people.
Yeah.
But
college stuff, you get a group of friends that kind of fades away over time, people you met once. And,
yep. But yeah, that was the first thing. Someone was like, oh, let's share testimonies. And everyone had kind of went around and oh, I got saved when I was 13 and I was 8 and I grew up in the church. And it got around to me. I'm like, oh, wow.
Well.
Huh, well, here's mine. But yeah, I mean, and that's the cool thing too, is people are that's so incredible, just to see the way that God works through that stuff. So yeah, it's great.
So why Grandpappy Podcast?
So, if you so do decide to listen to this, to my podcast, the first episode is labeled Chris Holderfield. I think it's just labeled as Chris Holderfield. Everyone else gets a weird name. But
Jake from State Farm, I think, was the last one.
Yep. That's his Snapchat name, so That's why we did that one. But yeah, with Chris Holderfield, we had talked about it, and he was the one who came up with the name. So I played basketball, and we had to wake up early to leave for it was just a weekend trip in Michigan, because we had 2 games.
Yeah.
So we all slept in the same room, and Chris Holderfield is just he's a character, man. And so he was telling us how he was going to tell us a bedtime story. I mean, he stretched this thing out for at least 2.5 hours. I mean, just making stuff up on the fly. He's a really creative dude. It's so funny. And so
the best kind of guy to bring on a road trip.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And that was the thing, is he wasn't even coming with. He was just in the room when we were all trying to go to bed.
Great.
And so he used everyone in the room as a character, but changed their name just a little bit.
Yeah.
So he is such a weird story about a bunch of guys going on a quest to search for something. I don't even remember what it was. But he used my name as Grandpappy Grant. I'm laying there. I'm like, I guess that's a lot better than the other names that have been given out right now. And so then, yeah, we talked about it on the podcast. I'm like, why Grandpappy Grant? He's like, I just think you're older than the rest of us. Because, I came in as a freshman at 21.
Yeah.
He's like, you're older than the rest of us, and you're much wiser than most of us, too. I'm like, I'm flattered.
I mean, I guess.
He's like, kind of like how a grandpappy is old and wise. Like, okay.
Thanks.
Gotcha.
Got it.
So, yeah, when I was trying to think of, because they spent all night trying to think of podcast names, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, I could do something super basic, just the Grant Billings Podcast or whatever it was. And I'm like, no, the Grandpappy Podcast. I was like, that's perfect.
It needs character. It needs flair.
Exactly. And then, so the original logo that I had made up was just a black backdrop with a coffee pot, and then it just said the Grandpappy Podcast. Well, then my friend Dylan, he has a podcast called Inside the Clipboard, to where it's pretty much sports, just straight up sports. But then he'll also look at it from kind of a Christian worldview.
Not doing much now though.
Yeah. So right now, I don't know what he's recording on. He's actually getting married tomorrow, so shout out Dylan. But he was like, yeah, my younger brother drew up my logo. I can give you his information. So I just reached out to his brother on Facebook. I'm like, hey, I was like, here's the name of the podcast. Just have a coffee pot somewhere in there. So a couple days later, he sends it back to me. I'm like, this is incredible. Yep. So the logo you see now was drew up by Dylan Paneline's brother. I want to say his name's Anthony, but I sound really bad not knowing his name.
Yeah, it's crazy how many talented people are out there on the internet. That's just so the Steady Anchor logo, that was designed by Amanda Holden. I think she's on social media at Amanda Holden Designs. But it was just this I asked on social media on a different page that I run, like, hey, is anyone talented graphically and can throw this together? And I got a couple offers, and she's the first one to get it in. And it looks great. And I got some stickers made up from it, which I'm realizing now that I forgot to send her the stickers that I promised to. So I'll have to rectify that later. But yeah, go check her out if you can. Before I forget, though, why the tagline, "This coffee pot is awfully hot"?
So, this is probably the funniest part. So, me and my group of friends, I pretty much just took, like, all the stupid things that we do and just mushed them all together and put them into this podcast somehow. So, in 2017, at the BET Awards, Eminem did this freestyle, right? And the whole freestyle is just him just bashing Trump. But he starts out the whole thing by saying, "That's an awfully hot coffee pot. Should I pour it on Donald Trump? Probably not." So I don't know how it got brought back up between my group of friends. I think it was my friend Joe. His podcast title is Military Joe. So it started out where he would just say that, and then we were laughing because we're like, "That's so dumb. Like, How do you start it out like that? You know, for being as talented." I mean, I know I'm not promoting like
I
listening to
expected
Eminem.
better of you, Eminem.
Well, right. I mean, you just see his creativity, but then he starts out like that. So then we would just sit in the room for hours, and we'd go, "This coffee pot is awfully hot."
Just really angry Eminem voice.
Yeah, but then
Coffee pot, it's awfully hot.
but then we'd go on off of that for like a half an hour, like, "Lost my parking spot in the parking lot," and we just do everything to where it would rhyme with like the awfully hot coffee pot. So then, at the end of the first episode, I just decided to go ahead and say it, and then we all thought it was so funny when we did it. So then, like, the second episode,
There's the tagline.
kept doing it. So yeah, then at that point we just kept on going with it.
There you go.
And then in the last episode I did, Jake from State Farm, he was so hyped to be on the podcast. And I don't know Jake that well. So I'm like, I don't really know what to talk about. Because right before the podcast starts, I'll have like my post-it notes. And I'll just write down like 4 or 5 points. I'm like, this is what we're going to talk about. We're just going to transition into all these. I'm like, I don't know what to talk about with him.
Yeah.
I don't even know his last name.
And it's Jake from State Farm.
Right. So he comes in and opens up his phone, and he's got his notes open, and he just hands it to me. He's like, "All right, these are the things I want to talk about." I'm like, "Perfect."
Excellent.
Yes,
Thank you.
now we have some structure.
And you're like, I was going to use my notes, but this will work. Yeah.
Well, and then it ended up being like an hour-long podcast. Because he was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about going past a half an hour?" I'm like, I mean, if it calls for that, I can.
Yep.
And yeah, we went 58 minutes.
Yeah.
So it was
It was good. So anyone listening, go check that one out. I was listening to it in West Virginia on the way back from spring break.
Which West Virginia, as of yesterday, got their first coronavirus case.
They were holding out.
They were.
West Virginia Hill people, apparently.
Bingo.
Just viral immunity. One of the people I went with is from Virginia, and so every time he drives through Virginia, he just gets more angry and upset at West Virginia. It's like the hills are dumb, the tolls are dumb, the snow is dumb. He's just really mad.
Oh, I love West Virginia. I got so much family there, man. I love it there.
We did as all people have to do, Take Country Roads Take Me Home as we entered and left West Virginia.
I was looking for my hoodie that actually says Almost Heaven, and then in the middle it's got a West Virginia logo. Probably my favorite hoodie I own.
So, what else? Whoa. Sorry, my brain just stopped working for a second. Hey, Grant, that's an awfully nice cup of coffee you got there. Are you a frequent coffee drinker?
That I am, believe it or not. So much so that I roast my own coffee beans.
Wow. So tell us about that.
Oh, all right. So I had a thought. I was like, I'm on a college campus, let alone a Southern Baptist college campus. And one thing that people drink more than anything, probably more than water there,
is coffee.
Of course. And of course, Louisville being such a heavily like coffee area, you have so many just like local coffee shops, just
because you work
at
a coffee shop, right? Or at least you did.
I did.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm like, I could probably make a couple extra bucks roasting my own coffee beans, because I had the popcorn poppers where you plug it in and flip it on. There's that metal rod in the middle that just spins around.
Yeah.
So I started doing a little bit of homework. I'm like, I think you can roast coffee beans in these. So I go on Amazon and I ordered a 3-pound bag of unroasted coffee beans and then bags that you can package them in. All in all, with you tack on shipping and all that fun stuff, $31.
Yeah.
Which really isn't that bad, all things considered. So that following Sunday, like I don't remember where anybody was, but like everyone was gone. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go ahead and do this. So I go down to the little kitchen area in the basement of the dorm complex. And I flip on the fan thing. And I'm like, we're going to roast these coffee beans right here, right now. So I do it, and I'm keeping an eye on it. Like I'm shooting for a light roast, keeping an eye on it. And all this smoke is going straight up into like this vent, which is awesome. Perfect. But the smell, it smells like something's burning every time you do it.
Yeah.
So then this one girl comes down. She's like, is something burning? I'm like, nope, I'm just roasting coffee beans. And she gives me this look of like, what do you mean you're roasting your coffee beans? What are you doing, you imbecile? So I do that, and I'm like, all right, I think this is good. So then
store-bought coffee's not good enough for Grant. You gotta roast his own beans.
So I started kind of tossing around, getting all the chaff out and everything, cooling the beans down. I'm like, all right, cool. So I put it in this bag, and then like the next day, I'm like, all right, here we go. So I put it in the grinder, and I grind it up, and it just yellow powder. I'm like, that's not what that's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we're going to try it. So I put it in the filter, make my pot of coffee, and it looks like I'm brewing just an enormous pot of tea. I'm like, this only goes bad.
Yeah.
This only goes bad for me. So I tried it. I'm like, this is just disgusting. So then I'm like, whatever. I'll put all the stuff up and try it again another day. And it was a couple weeks. And my friend Drew, he and I just kind of got to talking. We were joking around about like roasting coffee. I was like, yeah, I tried to do it one time and it ended really bad. I needed to let it roast longer. So then that was a Friday. We're talking about that. Oh, this could be, really fun or whatever. Could be funny, all this stuff. And by Saturday, we're texting, and it was like, yo, if you're really serious about this, like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then by that Sunday, we were out in the courtyard roasting coffee beans. So we roasted, I don't know, probably 1.5 pounds of coffee beans and just exchanged it between the two of us. And then I was like, this could be all right. Did some extra research, and then all of a sudden he starts Facebook page, Instagram page. There's a link in the Instagram bio with an order form where you can order your coffee, all this stuff. I'm like, wow, like this is really cool.
Got an ad program running.
Yeah, pretty much. We were just like blowing it up. Anyone that walked by, we're like, hey, you want to buy some coffee beans? And this one girl that I like, neither of us really talked to, like her and her sister were walking by and like, oh, what are you guys doing? I'm like, oh, we're just roasting coffee beans. And this girl's sister, who doesn't even go to Boyce, she's like married, has an actual career job.
Just kind of there.
Yeah, and she just went on the order form, ordered some right then and there. And we're like, thank you so much. And then she's like, yeah, I want to take a picture of you guys in case you guys like really blow up.
Nice.
So we take a picture.
Or if it goes bad and I can sue you.
Or if I get poison or coronavirus from these coffee beans.
I will have evidence.
So yeah, then like later on that night, we're ordering some stuff that we're going to need, and we look on the order form. And by the end of that night, this is the first day the order form was even on.
Yep.
And we put it up at like 2 p.m. By the end of the day, we had over $100 worth of orders.
Ooh.
And then that following Wednesday, everybody go home. We're like, you gotta be kidding me. We were building the empire. But yeah, I mean, the coffee beans have all turned out really well. And then he works at a place where he can get unroasted beans for like 40% off.
Nice.
So he had just bought 10 pounds and another roaster. Towards like, we can do double the amount now. We have the supplies, we have the bags to store it all in, and then all this stuff happened.
Yep.
So he and I got to thinking, maybe if we just, over the summer, since I'm going to be going back down to Louisville and he lives there already, we got to thinking, maybe we just roast a bunch, keep them in containers, and then once the time rolls back around, we big time blow it up again, promote it, make stickers or hats or whatever, and then at that point when people order, we can just boom, toss it in a bag, here you go.
Yeah.
Instead of, all right, we're going to roast it tomorrow, and then within the next couple days we'll get it to you.
Yeah.
So, but it's a ton of fun. It's awesome, and to like sit there and drink a cup of coffee and think like, man, like,
I did this.
This is my coffee. This is B&W Roasters coffee. Yeah, so if you want to check that out on social media too, B&W Roasters is our handle. We're on Facebook and Instagram. So there's that. If you want to, do it. If you don't, I mean, no one's going to make you. So,
good stuff. Well, that's just about everything I had on the docket. Before we close, how can we be praying for you?
So for me, financially with school, things have gotten very tough, and just financially in general now since,
Yep.
I mean, I'd say probably for a lot of people, but me and a couple of my friends, Chris and Joe that I mentioned earlier, we're looking for a place right now that's going to let us move in. And then I had just recently applied for work at UPS down in Louisville with my friend Nathan. So hoping that all works out and I can be able to work and get back down to Louisville and just serve my church down there.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Good stuff.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for being the first guest.
Yes.
I'd call this a success.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So, for the regular listeners or anyone else who is new, you can follow us, the Steady Anchor Podcast, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, SoundCloud, and YouTube. You can find us on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Steady Anchor Pod. Leave us a rating and review if you like this episode, you want to hear more. It helps us get the word out, or just recommend to a friend. We're all stuck inside at this point, so if you want something extra to listen to, give us a follow. Go and follow the Grandpappy Podcast and all of his friends. Maybe get a good bag of coffee ordered and ready for someday down the road.
We can get it to you in probably September, so.
Yeah. So, until the next time, love God, love his church, and love your neighbor as yourself. God bless.